Hey Mavs fans, before I get into today's video where I grade most of the Dallas Mavericks offseason, I got a question to ask you. When did you subscribe to All Things Mavs? And if you haven't yet, that's all right. Go ahead and click this link right here or scroll down, hit the big red button and subscribe. But if you've subscribed before the NBA draft, type MFFL, which of course stands for Mavs Fan for Life. Or if you're one of our newer subscribers, type Mavs because we gained a ton of subscribers after that draft. And I want to know who's coming from where. No shame either way, but I just want to know. So MFFL if you subscribed before, type Mavs if you subscribed after. Now, let's get into today's show.
All things Mavs.
Now, on today's show, I'm going to be grading the Mavs offseason, but not the whole offseason. We're focusing just on the trades and free agency. We're not including the draft in this discussion. And when you look at what the Mavs have done via trade and via free agency, they added 6 new players. They lost 3 kind of role players and 2 more into the bench guys, who we'll get into later. And when it was all said and done, the Mavs had a 40% roster turnover. So I don't want to hear anything about, oh, the Mavs don't make moves. They changed nearly half of their roster around. So I'm not going to give you the grade yet. You're going to have to stay all the way until the end for that one. And if you want me to do a full offseason grade that includes the draft, you got to subscribe. YouTube.com/allthingsmavs. It's an easy thing to do. Just scroll down, hit that big red button, and I'll include the draft in my next offseason grade. But today, we're talking trades and we're talking free agency. And the 2 biggest trades the Mavs made, in fact, the only 2 trades the Mavs made, was one to acquire Josh Richardson and the other to acquire James Johnson. Now, as you see James Johnson's stats there, of course, he's the one with the neck tat, in case you don't know what he looks like. Those are his stats in his 14 games in Minnesota. And when he was in Minnesota, he turned into a very efficient player and was a player that the Timberwolves desperately needed as a sort of veteran leader for that young team. And he put up 12 points per game, 5 boards, dished out 4 assists as he was kind of a playmaker on that team, and shot the ball really well at 37%. Josh Richardson, we've covered him a little bit more extensively on this show and on this channel. You guys know what he brings, but his numbers really in Philly don't speak to how good of an offensive player he is because he didn't have the spacing he needed to be a good three-point shooter. Now, I know I'm not talking too much about the draft, but we got to talk about Tyler Bey because that came via trade in the Philadelphia deal where they also got Josh Richardson. Now, a lot of you guys may not know that much about Tyler Bey, but let me tell you this one thing. The dude is a freak athlete, a great defender, and he can defend 3s, 4s, and 5s. He has the he has the size to guard all 3 and the athleticism to guard all 3 as well. If you want a little bit more of a highlight kind of mixtape on Tyler Bey to see what he does and what he can potentially do for the Mavs, go check me out on Twitter at all_things_Mavs. So when you include the fact that the Mavs got Josh Richardson, James Johnson, and Tyler Bey, this is a solid pickup via trade. They also dumped a few guys that we're going to get into. But something that's really solid that you should go check out is this Black Friday deal at Fanatics. Chatsports.com/Mavs Friday. Everything at that link is 50% off. That's right, that 2-pack of shirts you just saw on screen. These socks that I'm trying to reach out and grab right here, I can't get them, but I will get them for 50% off at chatsports.com/Mavs Friday. A sweet ball cap that I'm going to pick up as well. Listen, it's the best time to get a deal right now on Fanatics. So go check them out. Go get the Mavs fan in your life something really nice for really cheap at chatsports.com/Mavs Friday. These shorts and this t-shirt comes in a pack as well. Go check that link out. Best place to go for all your Mavs gear and on the best price available. chatsports.com/Mavs Friday. I'll get that link in the comments and in the description. So all you got to do is click on it. Now, one thing I really wanted to pay attention to here in the trade market was a trade the Mavs decided not to make. According to Tim Cato of The Athletic, the Houston Rockets were talking a deal about Robert Covington with the Dallas Mavericks, and the Mavs were in the running for him. And this was the deal that the Houston Rockets wanted. They wanted the Mavs to give up Seth Curry, the 18th pick, and the 31st pick for Robert Covington. Now, if the Mavs had done that, they wouldn't have Josh Green. They wouldn't have Tyrell Terry. They wouldn't have Tyler Bey. And they wouldn't have Josh Richardson. So you tell me, what would you rather have? Those 4 guys plus Seth Curry or Robert Covington? I think the answer is pretty simple. This was a great no trade by Donnie Nelson and Mark Cuban. A great thing to say no to. But they did have to say no and say goodbye to a few players. And so we're going to talk about the guys that they did end up giving up. Look, Seth Curry, he was a starter by the end of the season on this team. He's 6-man kind of more often than not. And yes, the Mavs are desperately going to miss his three-point shooting, but you upgraded from him defensively by getting Josh Richardson. And then the two guys that I know we've talked a lot about on this channel, DeLon Wright and Justin Jackson. Pour one out for Justin Jackson Island because I wanted him to work out so well on this team, and he just didn't. He wasn't good. He was supposed to be a good three-point shooter. He shot under 30%. DeLon Wright was supposed to come in and be a good defensive guard, and I think DeLon still has a role in the NBA, but not with the Dallas Mavericks. It just didn't work. So you got rid of two negative assets, and you had to trade in a bad defender for a great defender in Josh Richardson. And now the Mavs went out, and they got two new players via trade in Josh Richardson and James Johnson. Who are you more excited about? Type JR if it's J Rich. Type JJ if it's James Johnson. James Johnson, you got that tough enforcer type. I don't think he's going to make as much of an impact on this team as Josh Richardson will because Richardson's more of that, starter level guy. It's going to play solid defense. Johnson, listen, man. Luka gets pushed around one time. James Johnson's going to whip out that black belt and do whatever he needs to do to take down whoever's messing with Luka. So I'm excited about both of them, but let me know which one you're more excited about in the comments section. Now, you got to look at the free agent additions or re-signings as well, and I'll be honest. This is where the Mavs underwhelmed a little bit. I was very excited about Trey Burke coming back. I was actually really excited that Willie Cauley-Stein came back as well, especially with a team option on the second half of his deal. Wes Iwundu, I'm excited about the prospect of him, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. We don't know what we're going to get out of him. We just don't. He's expected to be a good defender and a good athletic wing, and I think he could be an Al-Farouq Aminu type in Rick Carlisle's system, but he's going to need the chance to shine. And then JJ Barea. Listen, guys, I know you guys are mad that we gave him a roster spot, but at the end of the day, you got to have veterans on a team in which you want to win. And so they had to do it, and, they show their loyalty. Players around the league see that, and they enjoy that, and it means a little bit more than just having the extra warm body. Now, in free agency as well, the Mavs picked up some undrafted free agents. Nate Hinton is a guy that a lot of people on Mavs Twitter are very, very excited about, and he's on a two-way deal. And you're like, well, what's a two-way deal? He can play as many games with the Mavs as he wants to this year. Two-way deal is a little bit different. They also invited Freddie Gillespie to camp and Devontae Patterson. Look, the Devontae Patterson signing, I still don't understand as a camp invite, but hey, he's from Texas. They're giving him a chance. But I'll be honest, there were some guys in free agency the Mavs could have gone after. With the money they had to spend, which wasn't a lot, they could have gotten any of these guys. A Marc Gasol, a Jakob Poeltl, Aaron Baines, Justin Holiday, Derek Favors. But let me explain to you why those guys actually probably wouldn't have picked the Mavs at the end of the day. Marc Gasol goes to the Lakers, where he's probably going to be a starting center and able to really probably win a championship. Again, Jakob Poeltl stays put in San Antonio. I don't think the Mavs would have wanted to get him right away anyway. Aaron Baines has a chance to start right away with Toronto. Justin Holiday is where his brother is, and Derek Favors has a chance to be the main backup to Rudy Gobert. Sometimes it's about role and not about money. And I know some of you guys are like, well, they didn't sign those guys, but what about all the other big-name free agents? Guys, let me explain something to you. The Mavs only had the mid-level exception to spend in free agency. And I'm going to pull out my phone, and I'm going to read to you some of these deals that the Mavs decided not to give to players and guys that we thought they might be interested in. All right, you ready? Here we go. Rapid fire. Gordon Hayward, 4 years, $120 million. I'm out. Bogdanovich, 4 years, $72 million. We didn't have the money to give him that. Christian Wood goes to the Houston Rockets for 3 years, $41 million. Mavs didn't have the money to do that. Joe Harris gets $75 million to sit in the corner and shoot from the nets. Mavs didn't have the money, nor did I want them to give that kind of money to Joe Harris. Danilo Gallinari gets 3 years, $62 million on the Atlanta Hawks. Even if the Mavs did have that money, I'm not giving that much to Gallo. I love the dude. I would have loved him in Dallas, but that's too much money. Jeremy Grant, 3 years, $60 million. You're going to pay $20 million a year for Jeremy Grant? No, thank you. 2 years, $37 million for Goran Dragic. Mavs didn't have that kind of money. 5 years, $80 million for Davis Bertans. Imagine if Davis Bertans can't play defense, which he can't. You're going to give him that? Absolutely not. Marcus Morris, he's a punk. I don't want him on my team anyway. Paul Millsap, 1 year, $10 million. Mavs didn't have $10 million to spend on Paul Millsap, even though they were apparently interested. And then Jay Crowder goes out and gets 3 years, $30 million from the Phoenix Suns. Guys, the Mavs didn't have the money to make those kind of moves. It wasn't that they failed in free agency. It's that they didn't have the money to make those kind of moves, but you saved it for 2021. So the Mavs did everything they could with all the assets that they had. So I showed you the realistic free agents the Mavs could have had. I do think Gasol and Aaron Baines were a little bit more realistic, maybe a Justin Holiday, but at the end of the day, the Mavs didn't want to commit that long-term money to those guys. So of the guys that you saw signed that the Mavs actually had the money to do, which one did you want the most? And I get it. There are some swings and some misses for the Mavs. They wanted Gasol. They didn't get him. They were interested in Baines, but he got a starting spot in Toronto. it is what it is. So you can let your voices be heard. Let me know the one realistic free agent you would have liked on this Mavs team. So to wrap it up, to kind of give it a nice, pretty bow here and put, the ribbon on it as we grade the offseason in terms of trades and free agency, I'm going to give it a solid B. Not a B minus, not a B plus. It's not an A. And let me tell you why. I give it a B because the things they did right was address the needs on this team. They added size with Willie Cauley-Stein and James Johnson and even Tyler Bey. They added wing defense with Josh Green, with Josh Richardson, with James Johnson, and with Wes Iwundu. And they added physical toughness. Guys like Josh Richardson, guys like James Johnson all want to mix it up, and Wes Iwundu as well. Now, I will say the thing they didn't do well, or the thing they failed to do, was add a good playmaker next to Luka. You bring back Trey Burke, he's a walking bucket, but he's not one of those, Zach LaVine, Victor Oladipo kind of playmakers. But that being said, those guys haven't been traded to any team. Not just Dallas. No team is traded for those kind of guys. But the most important thing the Mavs did this offseason, they cleared cap for 2021. They have all the money in the world to spend on those top free agents. And now the Mavs are going into the season with a brand new lineup. I think their best lineup, I don't think this will be the starting lineup because I do think Dwight Powell will start, but I don't think he will get the bulk of the minutes at center. I think in crunch time, when the Mavs are trying to win a game, your lineup's going to look something like this. Obviously Luka's in the backcourt. Tim Hardaway Jr. is at the 2, right? Josh Richardson at the 3, Doe at the 3, or at the 4, and KP at the 5. That's 5 guys on the floor at all times that are plus 3-point shooters. Josh Richardson, with the space he's going to get in Dallas, I predict, as of right now, and maybe we'll do a prediction show here soon, I predict he will have a similar shooting year as Tim Hardaway Jr. had last year, and he's going to change this Mavericks defense. He's going to help the offense as well. So overall, I give it a B. I'm not going lower. I'm not going higher. I think it's sitting at a pretty B right now. Maybe they make one more trade, and we'll see. It could bump up, or it could drop down as well. But you guys can make your grades in the comment section. A, B, C, D, or F. A being it was perfect. There's nothing better they could have done. A B being you agree with me basically perfectly. A C being I didn't really like the pickups that much. D, I don't even know what a D would be. I don't know if there's much of a difference between a D or an F. And an F is straight up just worst offseason of all time. It couldn't have gone worse. We did everything wrong. So make your grades heard in the comment section. Also, make sure you turn on your notifications for the next time we post a video.